All right, starting out with Monday, we got pretty much PIK. PIK was a stock on Monday that pretty much gapped up. I think over here we gapped up a bunch, and I was looking at it. It was just, normally I like to buy 52-week breakouts. I don't really like to short 52-week breakouts. And in this situation, we broke the 52-week breakout. I think it was 870, I believe, and we hit a high of I don't know 880 or whatever. Anyway, so this ticker, I was looking at it and it was gapping up. I think around 300 or some percent, and 300 and some percent. That's a pretty big gap. And I was looking at all the other gappers and the volume, the money flow of the whole entire market was pretty much spread out in three different stocks or four different stocks. So it was pretty much, I looked at it, and at that moment in time, it seemed like, I think I made a video about this. This is the gap up short idea. Once you have a stock going up from, I think $2. I think it was $2. I think it was up from $2, 160 over here into a high of you can see here that we hit a high of $19. Once they walk out this stock to these astronomical levels, especially when the broker is open, technically it was up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Those brokers will buy you in, and I had a buy-in happen to me, to tell you the truth, and they just pretty much buy the stock back. And what happens is once they buy you in, say you're short at $3 and they cover you at $10, I mean that's gonna be a humongous loss for the short sellers that were in it. I mean 3 to 11. That's not twice. That's four times down your money. So once I saw something like this, and once I saw the shorts getting bought in, I knew it didn't have that much potential to go up higher. I don't remember if it had news or not, but it was definitely a gap up short. I think it was the top gainer of that day. If I were gonna look at it, Finviz, let me check if it did have news or not. Pick, I think. Let me take a look at Pick over here. So it was a pretty much gap up short scenario. You can see so here. The float was around 1.69 million, and we were hitting this downtrend over here, and insiders own 81%. So they took it up and they pretty much smashed it back down. The date was on the 11th, so it was just a big short squeeze after a 4-to-1, 4-to-5 reverse split, and you can see after that, it pretty much got demolished and got sold off pretty freaking hard. That was it for pick. And I think my short on this gap up short was around, I think it was 920 over here somewhere, and or 920 over here somewhere, because I was looking at this trend line to hold, and suddenly I thought it's gonna break down over here. And I was risking $10. That's what I told the chat, that I'm short. And soon enough, this thing, after I shorted, went down all the way to $5. I covered most of my shares into way too soon, around 7. Usually, maybe next time you wanna hold these gap up shorts. I mean, you can hold them most of the day, maybe all day long. And these are the great account builders techniques. I actually covered. I made $3 a share. You know why I covered? Because I was uncomfortable at one point. I think I was uncomfortable when I was at 920 short, and this thing tried to push multiple times into tens. And soon enough, it actually tried to push at one point over here into 1050, almost looking like it's about to break out and run. And that got me uncomfortable. So I covered way too soon, just because it went against me a little bit more than I was expecting and made me feel uncomfortable. But soon enough, the strategy worked. I could have just stayed uncomfortable and it added into this dip at 750 and then wrote it down all day long at 450. I mean, this was an astronomical gap up short. Probably the best one of the week, probably low stress, and pretty much best trade of the week, percentage wise. After this pick ran, I think there was John called a nice one in the chat room. The power of team playing. I think it was on the 11th. I think he called out a ticker, the one that has the lowest float, the lowest float of the day, and STI right about here. STI, he was like buying it at 102, sold it at 133, and let me show you like exactly what STI did, because you guys, that STI was nuts. So just because I'm shorting something doesn't mean this is STI that day. I didn't even see this one. He took it off my scanner since I posted a scanner. But that day, STI, I think on Monday was it. On Monday we ran like I think right here. This is the craziness the STI did. He was buying it at $1 and he was selling it at 140 or something. And then next thing you know, this thing hit like $3. Unfreaking believable how this ticker hit $3. I was looking at it, I was like, there's no better Monday than this, because he called it off my scanner, because you can see each morning I post a really nice a gap scan right here, and in the morning we had STI here. It was right somewhere in here. Over here we got pick that was gapping up something, and then STI was somewhere on the bottom over here. I don't know where STI is. Somewhere in this where was STI? Is that let me click on it real quick. Is it STI? I don't know where it was, but it just popped out of nowhere. It popped up out of nowhere, and this was the midday mover so far. And we just pretty much ran over here to like $3. So that was just an unbelievable call in the chat room. This move over here, unbelievable, like $1 to like 310, pretty nicely. So moving on to pretty much Tuesday, that was my home run opportunity idea. I mean, this chat room is not like trying to scalp you for 10 cents or 20 cents or 30 cents. I do most of the time would like to, have you guys profit more than 10% each day on a stock that I'm trading. So I kind of look for stocks that have the least amount of float, most amount of volume, stock that has news, stocks that, are in play, stocks that are really good at trading, and they're good at the good risk reward. So you had pick here that I shorted at 925, and we hit way back down to pretty much 450. So that was a 50% gain. And then the other ticker, STI, pretty much unbelievable price action, midday price action of $1 up to $3. So we try to trade stocks that make money for the chat, and stocks that are really volatile that you can make, sometimes in this situation, twice 20%, twice 20, 30, twice 100% or something like that. So I went short on Monday, and I ended up making 2K that day. And then pretty much moving on to Tuesday, you can see everything for me is pretty much color coded. It's not color coded. It's like you can see this is the date of the stock. The date. This is March 12, 2024. So we had RGLS coming up here. This is pretty much high. Like I say in many videos, try not to short stocks that have a high institutionally ownership, because what happens to these stocks that have high institutionally ownership, the majority of the people that are buying these, the majority of the holders are long institutions, like Morgan Stanley, Wachovia, I don't know, Chase Manhattan, whatever institutions. That's what institutions means. So I did not want to short it whatsoever, and it was easy to borrow. So what I say multiple times when I see stocks that are easy to borrow is pretty much try to not short them, because because as you can see, I was buying it over here, and I was pretty much a little bit uncomfortable, but we hold the trend like textbook. This is RGLS right here, so you can find out whether there is shortable or not. RGLS was easy to borrow. I mean, the float was 17 million. I mean, it said here that was easy to borrow. I don't know, maybe they changed that, but I was finding it easy to borrow. Insiders, institutionally, there you go. Once you got a stock that, the reason you can find shares to short the stocks that because the institutions are pretty much long. That's the interesting thing about it. And soon enough, I mean, this thing pretty much in the middle of the day, they killed everybody at open, and then I made my money. I made from like 260 to $3. I made my consistent 20%, and at one point I could have went long on this trend line at 230 and sold at $3. That would equal me 70 cents, so that's 30 cents a share. 30%. So I could have made 70 cents technically if I would have been a little bit more patient and a little bit buying the support line over here, because you can see the support line over here. And after that, I pretty much I only made around 40 cents a share, but I could have made 70 cents a share. So this was a really nice setup to go long, and good thing I didn't go short, because right here you think that it's over and it's under view app and it's gonna go pretty much it's the end of everything, and I said don't short it because it's high institutional ownership, easy to borrow, long bias, and soon enough in the middle of the day we just went from $2 to 380, and that's not coincident. It's because all these shorts that are coming in here, they got squeezed over here. You can see the volume over here. All these people that were shorting over here, they just got killed over here. So they pretty much got, annihilated, to tell you the truth. The next ticker we're going to move on is Cero. Cero popped up in the middle of the day. You can see the downtrend here. Cero, I believe that day, I think this is a low float. If I were going to look at Cero, pretty much, Cero is a 4 point something milli float. You can see, so I pretty much try to trade the lowest float that I can, the ones that have most volume and the so March 7th. So it didn't really have any news whatsoever. The thing about liked it is pretty much the volume. The volume came in that day, and it didn't really have that much news. I saw this downtrend break right about here, 165 or whatever. I didn't buy that one because it spiked from 165 to about 190, and that 30-cent push over here, but it came back up, and I saw here that right here we pushed over highs right here. So we push over highs, then we have a higher low, then we have a lower high, a higher low, and then a breakout. So this is technically a wedge pattern formation right here. So I bought the wedge pattern formation as we got above $2. Soon enough, we hit 240, and that was nice. That was my trade, 40 cents a share. That was really my trade. RGLS, and actually, what happened was the reason I don't have, actually, the reason you can see here my PNL in Claro and RGLS. Yeah, Claro, I sold all at 240. So the reason I don't have any profits here is because in RGLS is because I didn't sell. I thought at that moment in time, I thought RGLS is going to go higher because of the volume, because of the percent gain, and that was up on the day. So I only sold partial at $3, but soon enough, it actually did what I wanted it to do. Only it happened like after midday or like after 11 o'clock when these short sellers got pretty much annihilated right about here. So, I didn't really do anything wrong in RGLS. Like, the only thing I did wrong is I didn't sell enough at $3. I only sold 1,000 shares, and then the next 2,000 shares, I pretty much just dumped it over here when I was going red on it, because I knew there was going to trap. But once it broke this trend line over here, I got out from like my 260 average. So I bought at 260. I held through the trend. I sold at $3, and then we came back over here, and I sold the rest over here. So it was overall a profitable idea, I would have to say. But the way they maneuvered this stock, it was just under VWAP, under the trend, and then a huge spike. So they will do something like this. I do expect stocks that have a high institutional ownership to be like this, to be ups and downs and trapping and pretty much doing all this stuff. We ended up hitting the daily resistance over here at 340. I didn't really buy. I didn't really short. I just took my 20% and I moved on. I only trade between 8 o'clock and like 10:30 or 11. I don't have like, and after that, I'm pretty much chilling in the chat room. I just don't have that long of a trading window. The market doesn't really give me plays between before 7 o'clock, and the market doesn't really give me that many plays after 12 most of the time. I'm just saying, 8 out of 10 days. So I come in when there's most amount of volume, most amount of liquidity, and then I pretty much just walk. That's what everybody should do. You should walk with a paycheck after 10:30 because of this. This happens multiple times. This is a midday chop, and you should avoid midday chops at all times because they're not fun. A predictable trade from 7 o'clock a.m. till 10:30. It's much better than a maybe after 10:30. I'm telling you, I've been in this trading small caps for a really long time. A sure thing, making a paycheck every single day from 7 o'clock to 10:30 is much better than coming in after 10:30 and losing. So be extra careful after those times because it could work or it could not work. But the percentages are probably not going to work most of the time, and you're going to be burned out. You're not going to be sleeping right, and you might go into some sort of you know spiraling down effect, which I was reading in the latest book I'm reading. The latest book I'm reading, I think it was the what was it? I don't remember because I just finished it. I was reading the Mastering the Mental Game of Trading, so I was reading that book. Anyway, Clara was good. This ticker RGLS was not that good. I should have sell at least half when I'm 20% up. I should sell half when I'm 20% up. That's probably the only thing that I didn't do wrong here. And the Claro was just perfect. There's nothing I could have done better there. So Clara, I made my money. To maybe wait for 240 because I missed by 4 cents. So that's pretty much it. Moving on to Wednesday. This was the gap scanner on Wednesday. On Tuesday, so you can see Clara there had very a lot of volume, and RGLS had a lot of volume, and Claro had in RGLS had institutions there of 40%. So moving on to Wednesday. Wednesday was pretty interesting. Wednesday was the only day that I traded really well. GXI. GXI over here was really difficult to trade in this pattern. We pop up over here. I think what was the news? G announces 3.5. They did an offering actually. That's terrible that they did an offering. So anyway, so that stock did have news. Let me see if what was the news on the ticker? Because I don't know what was the news. GFI. That's terrible that they did that offering. Is it GFI or GXI? Sorry, GAXI, GXAI. So G. So this is GXAI. Pretty interesting. I think this was GXAI. So right. That's right. So we pop up on Thursday. It's a recent reverse split, 1 for 12. You can see so here that March 8th, 2024, recent reverse split. That's always good. Float is micro float around 700K. And then they pretty much did an offering. But the news, I didn't even see. That was the news. Jaxos acquires rights to AI-enabled technology from a top biofarming app. That's somewhat decent, but not really that decent. It's decent. Yes, it's decent. You got AI, you got news, you got the theme going on. You got, recent reverse split. You got a micro float. You got a really nice sound, stock that has range. Yeah, this is a stock that I'm definitely trying to go interested in. So initially we see it pop up over here with the AI news. I didn't really come into that at all. I waited until, it had a higher high. Over here, we actually had a higher high right about there. It pretty much I got stopped out and then I went back in long. I sold half over here and I sold the other half over here. So That was probably one of my best longs that I had in a while. I'm not sure if I can pull out my buys and sells. Let me see if I can pull up my buys and sells because I do have my buys and sells real quick. GXAI. Oh, let's see if I can get my buys and sells. Where are my buys and sells? There they are. Is it that one? I'm trying to see if I can. There we go. There's my buys and sells. Right here. So you can see. So I originally bought. So I originally came in long. So I originally came in long GXI at 968, and then I sold at 910. So I lost 50 cents a share. That's fine. Then I bought at 962, sold half at 1078 and 1150, and then sold the rest at 1278. You can see. So that was the best trade that I did in a long setup. So just because you see me short Monday does not mean you're not gonna see me go long Thursday or Tuesday or this stock was on Wednesday. So I don't only short, I also buy. I like shorting gap up shorts. And I like short and gap up shorts, but sometimes I just don't know. Over here, you might say that this is a short over here, but I just don't know if this is gonna keep going or not. So I didn't really take advantage of this ticker whatsoever. But you can see so that it was very weak and it had an offering, and it was just $6 to $16, a big move for the stock. So moving on to loss. I actually lose, to tell you the truth. I lose on days I'm not following my process from time to time, and I did follow my process. It's just sometimes um I don't know. Maybe sometimes on Thursday, maybe I'm psyched out about this day or something like that, and maybe I'm just pushing it too much. But in this situation, we had PRST over here. We gapped up, not too bad. And pretty much we had this downtrend. I mean, the reason I didn't like PRST to begin with, I had a couple of new subscribers. They were sending me emails, and I was like, I gotta like perform. I gotta buy the stock that has most amount of, volatility, most amount of range, most amount of potential. You gotta make money every day. And I was buying PRST, and sadly, PRST, the flow was just too big. Like, I'm very uncomfortable shorting. I'm very uncomfortable buying stocks that have, very, very high float. Like you can see PRST over here. The flow was around 50 million. That's a humongous float, and insiders on 50%. So I was pretty much buying it, and I'm like, I mean, it's gapping up already 80, 70%. I mean, the news, I didn't even have any news. I don't even think it had news. So there was no even reason for me to buy it whatsoever, besides that it ran. It didn't really have news. And soon enough, I mean, it did an offering. It did, I mean, that was just not cool. Anyway, my long on this ticker was pretty much 41 and exited 38. You can see the downtrend over here was at 40, and I mentioned in the pre-market, what is it called? The pre-market live stream, that when you're in a cold market and we don't have that many gappers and movers, you should take 10, 20%, 10%. When you're in a base hit market, you should take 20%, 10%. When you're in a cold market, you should take 10%. When you're a hot market, you sell half when you're up 20% and you let the rest ride. When you're in a hot market, you sell half 20%, maybe 30%, maybe hold the rest for some unknown of 100 or 200 or 5,000%. But in a cold market, and sure enough, on Thursday we had a cold market, you have to take your money and you have to leave. And in this situation, you have to take your 10%. And I pretty much didn't take my 10%. I bought it at like 41, and I didn't really sell it until because I kept thinking more and more and more, and there's a lot of pressure on my back because I know a lot of people like sign up, and the first day they're just excited to trade and they just want to I do my best each and every day, and sometimes I feel like extra pressure and I push it more than I should. And sometimes, I mean, I probably wouldn't have even taken this trade if I haven't had so many emails and signups lately. People trying to make money and stuff, because there's extra pressure on me sometimes. In trading, the best trade is no trade. And it's very hard for people to understand that, because sometimes the best trade is a no trade. You are much better off buying not buying a stock that doesn't move that much, because you're playing yourself with some unpredictable black swan event, in which if you don't sell, you might get caught in this crazy offering, and then it's going to be a huge loss. So PRST was just not that great. I actually took my loss, and I have a limit of my losses. Like, I have, if I come in and I take two losses, I pretty much don't trade that day at all. You got to have rules, you got to have regulations, and you got to protect yourself from yourself, because your self will tell you that, hey, you've been winning 20, 30, 40, 50 stocks in a row. You got to keep going. But, just understand that you were winning those 40, 50 stock by having a process of trading. And once you abandon that process, and you take, and you throw the risk out the window, and you're just going to wing it, and then you don't have a limit of a loss per each ticker, like, you're just going to balloon and spiral and have one big loss. So I'm trying to keep my losses really small. As you can see, that was a loss. And I also lost in CCTG. This is CCTG over here. And I was technically trying to buy this downtrend breakout right about here at 460. I thought it was just gonna keep going higher. I didn't even think that's gonna be resistance. It didn't even occur to me at that time it's gonna be a resistance. But soon enough, you can see that clearly that was a resistance. So I was buying into resistance. So sometimes you might think this is a breakout of resistance, but the thing about this trade is that it traveled so much from 350 to 460. So it already traveled a dollar. In a hot market, I've seen stocks going from $3 to like $7, and they go like this and they don't stop. But right now, we're not in that hot market. We're in a much colder market. And, from 360 to $4 is a pretty big move. And you have to respect that. And you have to short the downtrend. So soon enough, I try to buy the downtrend. I try to buy the down. I try to buy it at 460, and I got stopped out, and I didn't even touch it again. So having rules like when things don't work out, having a maximum loss per ticker, having a maximum loss per trade, and not ballooning and spiraling and pretty much going on tilt like the book I'm reading now, is pretty much you have to stay on your golden chariot. That's what this book I'm reading is. The golden chariot of trading is like when you make logical decision, you have a process each day in which you go by, and you follow that process, the process that I have been doing for every single day. Right now I have about, I mean, I have data for like 2 years right now. Every single day what has moved. I have about 2 terabytes of recorded data for about last 2 years of what small cap stocks have done every single day. And I also have live streams during these times. So you have to catch yourself from spiraling or going on tilt. I mean, if you don't have the data, you should not trade. You might get lucky. You might win a couple of trades, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 trades, but you're gonna end up giving it back to the market, because just the nature of the game. The market makes it easy for you to make money, and shows you that it's easy for you to make money, and then it becomes cold, and you're doing the same thing you were doing before, and you're like, why is it not working anymore? And the things have changed. Stocks have changed, the pattern has changed, the market has changed, and you have to adapt to upcoming conditions. And to keep your money, you have to protect your money at all times. and you have to have a maximum loss per ticker, maximum loss per trade, and maximum loss per day. And in this situation, I did have a maximum loss per day, and it triggered around two, three, four, maybe $500. And I tried two tickers, correctly. I bought this downtrend. I got stopped out, and there's no going in for a second one because this stock did not have any type of news. Just remember, going in the second time on a stock that doesn't have news with 50 milli float. I mean, how many times have I seen a midday offering like this on no news? Not that many times. I mean, midday offerings happen not that much. So, avoid black swans or midday offerings. And like in this situation, I was buying a downtrend break right here. I thought it's going to keep going. And I was buying it at 460, and I got flushed at 420. I lost 40 cents a share just like an idiot. 460 to 422. So I do things sometimes that are just not going to work. That's just the reality of the thing. Sometimes you're just going to push the wrong buttons and it's not going to work. Do you know what you're going to do afterwards? Are you going to fight the market? Are you going to be angry? Are you going to you're going to trade after 10:30? Are you going to break the computer? Are you going to send a bad comment on my page because something that you did that happened? I mean, there's certain things that happen to people when they take losses. How do you handle losses? Are you a person that just takes the loss and moves on? Or are you a person that gets stubborn, doubles down, triples down, quadruples down, and then have a massive, undisciplined, no process blowout? What kind of trader are you? Are you a trader that's gonna be here tomorrow? Are you gonna trader that's just gonna blow up? That's kind of like what I'm trying to say. So in this situation, that day felt completely awful. I have to say, I wanted to come back into the market and make my money back, and I was very angry, and I felt like I was not performing that day, and I just wanted to come and fight back that day because for me, I'm a high achiever person. I do like to achieve, and I do like to move to continuously upgrade and continuously make more money each and every day and get better. And for me, losses are unacceptable. But I've been in this business for a long time, and I have to say, there's no way to avoid losses. Losses are part of the game. You have to, the only thing you can do is minimize them and not continue trading when you're on a losing streak or you are on tilt. Be very careful when you are on tilt. A lot of people don't know since they don't have a process. In a bull market when everything is going up and you're making money, you can get away with so many things. Doubling down, tripling down, and it still goes up. Not holding your stop losses. You can get away with so much stuff. But when things turn around, that's when the bulls turn on each other, and you might give up your year, you might give up your month, you might give up your 2 years. You need to have a process, and the process is respecting the maximum loss per ticker. And because the more you can respect the maximum loss per ticker, and the more I do sometimes walking meditations. I do listen to some Buddhism texts like Osho, and I now I look at throughout my educational material, and that is the way I reset my trading so far because I trade a lot and I need to reset multiple times because there's build up emotion, there's build up frustration, there's build up anger, there's build up being tired, there's build up you know maybe you don't have a girlfriend, maybe you just gained 10, 20 pounds, maybe you want to travel the world, maybe you're facing an eviction notice. There's a lot of things in your brain that will interfere with your trading. In trading, you have to come in and you have to be in zen mode, and it's preferably if you like live in the mountains. If you live like in the mountains, you will surrounded by nothingness. You will be profitable. You cannot. It's hard. Like your girlfriend, something bad happens around you. Like your girlfriend has like some minor injury or she's spasming out. You need to be stable at all times in this business because this $1,000 loss per day that I had Thursday can blow you out. You can just press the wrong button and you can just lose 2 years, 3 years of winnings. And then you're going to read a $20 Audible telling you about how this happened and how, you went outside your process. You have to come with the process. My process is waking up at 7, looking at the pre-market scan, my gap scan, and trying to figure out where the momentum of the money flow and which stock it is going to go, and trying to position myself to take a long or a short position, taking my stop loss if maximum 2 times, and then moving on, not fighting the market, not staying after 10:30, not I only stay after 10:30 in a hot market. And right now we're not in a hot market, we're in a cold market. Actually, on Friday is the only time I stayed. We're going to talk about Friday as well in my next slide. Actually, Friday I stayed after 10:30 to tell you the truth, and it worked out really good because on Friday we had this ticker called Verb, and we had JTI as well. So JTI was pretty much. I'm gonna skip J. I'm gonna skip JTI because that JTI trade should have been pretty much a flat trade. But I pretty much, I was chasing it and pretty much sold it a little bit way too soon, way too late. So JTI, I mean, since we're speaking of JTI, I wanted to show you that sometimes I'm going to put in JTIs over here. So JTI popped up. I thought this stock is going to get moving here because it was the lowest float of the day. The stock had news, and I thought this stock is going to get moving or something like that. So what happened was that I took a long right about here. We had a pop, come back down, and then the first 1 minute to break highs over VWAP. I was punching in, say around 120, and it was just very hard to trade. I mean, you could see how crowded this stock was. And right here, 120, 123. We break. Look at this one. We break 120. We come right back down to 117 for 5 candles for a 2 milli float. I think it was a 2 milli float. This thing, was it a 2 milli float? Let me see. So, I don't like the fact that, you have to understand, like, this is a 5 milli float. There we go. So it's a 5 milli float. So for a 5 milli float to not move, and it was not a recent reverse split. So 4 or 5, and did it have news? March was, so it didn't have news. So no news, 5 milli float, and the volume was just insane that day. What was the volume that day? You can see how high the volume is. So listen to me, just because the stock has volume and it's a low flow does not mean it's gonna go up. Just because it's rotating 20 times does not mean it's gonna go up. There's this thing called naked short selling. I never really observed this until I saw it, and I was wondering, why is this stock with a million float trading 100 million shares? It's not going up higher. Isn't it rotating 100 times and it's supposed to go higher? But there's a thing called naked short selling. I mean, you could argue the fact, I mean, right here, I mean, these 1 minute candles were around a million. I mean, the float was around 5 million. So in these candles, there was humongous amount of, trades right about here. I don't even think if I take the 15-minute chart, I don't know if that's going to work. I think I was trying to get the 10-second chart, the 15-second chart. I don't think I can take the 15-second chart. I don't know. So far the Trade Zero platform is allowing me to do 10-second chart, which is crazy because I never used the 10-second chart. Anyway, so in this range over here, they were pretty much, ping-ponging each other. And we reached pretty much triple top. We were in a cold market. Normally in the hot market, this thing would keep going. And I bought it at 126, and I said I was going to tell it out for flat. I had a 10% profit. So the point I'm trying to make here, when you're in a colder market, 10% is it. 10% is it for some of these stocks. Now, JTI was now the stock that I did make money on was Verb. So this is Verb. Verb had news with Facebook. Like Verb has news with Facebook, and you can see so here. Verb had pretty decent news with Facebook right about here, and actually, you guys should have read the news because it wasn't populating on my Thinkorswim until actually 10 o'clock. But at 8:30, you can see so here that you had Verb Marketing Live launches Facebook and Instagram social shopping technology integration. So whenever a small cap company links up with a mega cap company, because Meta is pretty hot, and you've probably seen already where Meta went because just gonna put in Meta over here, and you can see how high Meta came over here because Zuckerberg is probably the richest man alive right now, next to the Amazon dude. So whenever they link a small cap company, you're gonna expect something like this. I actually went long this downtrend break right about here. I actually went long initially at around 40 cents, 44 cents, 44 cents, and I got smashed. And then I lost 10% to 10% right about here. And then I actually got back in at 45 and I rode it all the way up to like 80. Just because you do need to get stopped out. Um, you do need to get stopped out. When things don't work, you need to get stopped out. That's for sure. Because what if it went going lower? You might wanna ask yourself, what if this stock, broke above VWAP and then smashed into the crapper? You don't know if this support line is gonna hold. So I would rather buy it as it reclaims VWAP and have a VWAP stop. That's kind of like how I've been trading. I've been trading them. Once it breaks VWAP, it needs to hold VWAP. That's kind of like mentality. Once it breaks the downtrend, it needs to hold it. So in this situation, it broke the downtrend, and then the stop loss was VWAP. And then in this situation, it broke VWAP, and then my stop loss was VWAP. So I was risking again around another 10% over here as I was buying it again. I think my rebuy was around 45 because I was like, man, because 9 out of 10 times when a stock goes like this, like this, like this, we should have just died 9 out of 10 times. When it reclaims VWAP and then it finds VWAP as resistance, 9 times out of 10 it should have just died. But I saw this thing over here and I was like, that's very unusual. Like this candle over here, as we came over VWAP the second time, it's freaking unusual. So I got back in at long at 45 because, right now this is an uptrend wedge pattern formation. And soon enough, once that uptrend wedge pattern formation, we just pretty much spiked from like this resistance over here, which was 50 to like 65 in like one freaking candle. And soon enough, then I held it. And then soon enough, we got up to 90 for my 45 long. So that was huge gain for me that Friday, trying to come back in. So Verb was good. I have to say, Verb was good. The only thing I'm doing wrong, I think I did this week, is Verb I traded correctly. Is this a good trade? Buying it here, stopping out here? Yes. Is this a good trade? Buying it here, selling over here? Yes. The only thing I don't think I did wrong this week, I bought CCTG over here, which I thought we are gonna keep surging, and that was just the resistance. But I immediately got out for like 40 cents a share. And the only thing I did, and I bought PRSD. We had a lot of low. We had a lot of really crappy stocks on Thursday. We really had like no opportunity, only base hits. 36 to 44 in this range, 15%, 20%, 10%, only base hit, and then they pretty much did offerings on these small cap tickers. We didn't have that many home run potential. And once you're in a cold market, because right now we're looking at the S&P 500, and you can see so here the S&P 500, we're kind of just, we're about to somewhat roll over, or we're a bit. I mean, we're holding the trend, but we're kind of running a bit out of steam, and we might come back down a bit to reality because the market is very much overbought a bit, and we might come back to, I don't know, maybe it'll come back to 470 or 480. I don't know. Maybe not. But right now we are very much overbought territory in the S&P 500. So stocks are, a little bit base hit there, a little bit base hit in PRST, a little bit of. I mean, this stock, I didn't see any edge right here. There was no edge to trade CCTG. There was no edge here besides buying this downtrend break, because this over here is not something I would want to buy. I like this is just mumbo jumbo here. Maybe I should have the place I did buy, that was a great short. So there's a couple of notes I'm gonna take. Like right here, PRST was pretty much interesting right here. If the stock doesn't have news, try to not come in the second time going long. Because you can see, so in this situation, like we try to push over 44, but you have to understand, this is a 50, 60 milli float, and it's already up 60% on the day. It's very unlikely it's going to keep going on no news. So it had no news. It had a huge float. So even though this stock VWAP reclaimed over here, that doesn't mean it's too heavy and it doesn't have news. So don't go in. Like, PRST is not the same thing as Vero, Verb. I mean, Verb has news. Verb has volume. Verb, we broke VWAP. We went under VWAP, but the thing we did here, we reclaimed VWAP. So that's something out of the ordinary. And I went long because it had news. But in this situation, the float is too high. Only 50 million. The float is too high. Verb float, I believe it was around 12 million. So try to not, so when things don't work in this scenario, PRST, try to not come back in. I mean, offerings don't really happen. 1 out of 20, 1 out of 30, 1 out of 50, 1 out of 100. I don't know. I've seen offerings. I don't know if I were going to name them. I don't know, maybe 5%, 3%, between 2 to 5% of stocks have offerings. And it's a very low percentage of if I get stuck in an offering. So it doesn't happen that often. So even though this looks scary because you're long at 40 and you go to 30, these offerings don't happen that often. And but sometimes it's just gonna be one of those black swan events, and sometimes you do get in a black swan event, but they don't happen. It's like 2% or something. So try to not go back in PRST once it's the stock pretty much. I mean, try to not go back in because the stock had the flow was too big. It's already up 70% on the day. It has no news, high float. It's already up 60% on the day. That it's not an indication to buy. Vero's an indication to buy. It has news, big company, Meta. It's holding above VWAP. It has a low float underneath 10 million. Those are good indications to buy. The other one, PRST, it's not a good indication to buy. The other ones, buying this downtrend support of CCTG is not a great setup. Understand the difference between an A setup and a B setup. And in this CCTG, I use medium size, which is about $5,000, and I lost 200-300. In this situation in Verb, I used about medium size, around 10K. So medium size is 10K, small size is 5K, and huge size is 20-30K. So you have to understand which one is an A plus setup. Verb is an A plus setup. Go more in Verb. And don't PRST is a 60 milli float, already up 70% with no news. Don't go big size in this piece of crap. And if you do go big size, take a quick gain and leave. And GXI, great trade. Nothing more to say here in GXI. I don't know what else am I supposed to do with GXI. I made from $9 to $13, 40%. Claro made 20%. RGLS made 20%. PIC made 30%. So I make money most of the time, 10-20% a day sometimes, maybe more, sometimes 33%. GXI was a 40% win. But the thing I'm trying to get you guys to see is that you're gonna have a time of you're gonna have one of those days in which nothing works and nothing happens, and you're gonna take a loss, and it's gonna make you very angry, and you cannot take it on the account. You have to have rules to walk away, because and you have to have a process. Like, even the most experienced traders go through this emotional turmoil in which they have a loss and they're trying to fight back. The more you fight, the more you lose. Live to trade another day, because there's so many people that come and go, and they give months and months and months and sometimes decades of work in just one day of stupid bad judgment. And that's the thing I'm trying to get you guys to understand. You see me make a lot of money and make really good risk reward, but I do have my days in which things are black, and I just and I'm out of balance, and and they haunt me. Those days haunt me, and I'm sure, and those days put an end to most beginner traders uh career. Like, you lose everything, and like the Bitcoin 60,000 to 20,000, 90% of traders never recover from that. It's very hard to recover when you lost 2 3 years of work. So, keep that in mind. I make money. I do have good risk rewards. I do give really good, setups, and I try to look for really good setups. That is an A+ setup. But, do not, if you're red that day, leave. This market will this market is not your friend. It's here to take your money, and it wants you to lose balance and get off your golden chariot, and it wants you to give them your money. Don't give them your money. Wait and come back into your golden chariot. Go back and doing your process each and every day with these trades and with these stocks. Show up between 8 o'clock and 10:30 each day. Do not burn out. Do not trade before that. Take profits. Have stop losses. Have maximum loss per ticker. Don't hold a tick. Don't trade a ticker more than one or two times, and you'll be all right. Bet a lot more on A+ setups like Verb, and try to, this is a CCTG. It's not an A+ setup, or PRST. It's not an A+ setup. Understand that there's going to be trades in which you're just going to be dead wrong, and that you can have these days back to back and back to back and back to back, and there's nothing you can do. It's just part of your process. Anyway, hope you enjoyed my 1 hour of blabbing. I do enjoy chatting with you guys, and trying to see how well my reels are gonna come, because my YouTube channel needs more reels, so I gotta put this in the algo. Other than that, it's been a fun time chatting with you guys. Thank you guys for watching, and have a great. See you all. We're really excited about this year. I'm posting new thumbnails, new keywords, maybe some travels around the world. It's going to be a fun time, to get you part of what I have to offer for you guys. Other than that, have a good one, and take notes and review your trades over the weekend, because that's what makes the difference between a successful trader and a trader that lost all his money. Work, lots of work, lots of independent work. Other than that, see you all later, and peace out.